In our last video, Abdullah ibn Yassin, the charismatic founder of the Almoravids, had just died in the battle against the heretic kingdom of Burawata. Abu Bakr ibn Umar, one of the senior members of the Almoravid, was just chosen as the new appointed leader. In 1061, as further rebellions break out in the Saharan tribes, he decides to go back to pacify the region. In his absence, he would appoint Yusuf Ibn Tashfin, his best and most trusted man, to lead the northern part of the empire. Now, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about Yusuf Ibn Tashfin, because this man is going to be the main protagonist for this series and is relatively unknown even in the Islamic world. And yet, in terms of greatness of character and leadership, there were very few like him. Some historians place him as the 5th Khalifa of Islam, others as 6th, right after Umar ibn Abdulaziz. And this is saying something, because when it comes to Islamic history, the consensus is clear. There were no better caliphs than the first 4 caliphs of Islam. After all, they are not called the rightly guided caliphs for nothing. So, back to the topic at hand. Yusuf ibn Tashfin comes from a long line of leaders from the Lamtuna tribe. He is Yusuf ibn Tashfin, ibn Ibrahim, ibn Turfit, ibn Wartaqtin, ibn Mansur, ibn Masala, ibn Umayyah, ibn Mu'talmi, Well, you get the point. Muslims of the time knew their lineage very well, and it was not uncommon at all for people to be able to trace their lineage back 10 generations. But I digress. Yusuf is described as a handsome man. He was brave and generous. But above all, he was extremely pious, and his fear of Allah was the greatest. As a hardened warrior from the desert, he was used to a somewhat rugged life, and had no love for the luxurious and extravagances that the Muslim emirs of Spain indulged into. He considered them weak, having more love for their lavish lifestyle than for the afterlife, to the point where they would even fight each other for territory, even allying Christians against fellow Muslims in some cases. No, Yusuf was different. He did not care much for the worldly life. He dedicated himself above all for the jihad and the pleasure of Allah. His teacher, Abdullah ibn Yassin, had obviously rubbed off on him considerably. His asceticism and love for the jihad are a direct result of Abdullah's teachings. And if you still do not know by now who Abdullah ibn Yassin is, go back and watch the 2 previous videos. As such, Yusuf adopted a simple lifestyle. He wore clothing made of simple wool and ate food that he prepared with his own hands. At the time, food was not very diverse, so his diet consisted mostly of barley bread, camel meat, and camel milk. And considering he lived close to 100 years in the 11th century, this does not seem like a bad diet at all. So now that we understand a bit who was Yusuf ibn Tashfin, let's get back to the main story. Abu Bakr ibn Umar was getting ready to depart to the Sahara to settle issues between his homeland tribes. Before his trip, he knew he would be gone for a long time, so he divorced his wife Zainab al-Nafrawiyah and advised her to marry Yusuf for protection. Zainab was known for her incredible beauty and sharp intellect, her mediation skills, and her beauty even earned her the nickname the Magician. She had been in 3 other marriages before Yusuf, and exclusively married leaders of tribes. Needless to say, she was another remarkable character that I hope we will have the chance to discuss more in details. In the absence of Abu Bakr, Yusuf ibn Tashfin would shine in strategic, military, and administrative tasks of the empire. Meanwhile, Abu Bakr was pacifying the last rebellions and protecting the south frontiers from the empire of Ghana. Once these matters settled, he came back to the north, expecting to take over the lead from Yusuf. Now, there are a couple of theories to explain the transition of power from Abu Bakr to Yusuf. The first one says that his wife, Zainab, advised him to confront Abu Bakr about the situation gently but firmly and gain his favors with a gift. The second one mentions that the decision was taken after a discussion the two had upon Abu Bakr's return from the Sahara. The first theory implies that Zainab had a say in the politics of the empire and has some weaknesses to it. For starters, these were really tough and challenging times, with men being constantly away dealing with political and military matters. So women would be busy filling the vacuum they left at home. Additionally, we know that later on, Yusuf chose his own son, Ali, as successor. if she really had an influence on the politics of the empire, one would assume that she would have pushed her own son to be successor instead, especially since he was older and an experienced military commander. Therefore, the second theory seems more likely to be the correct one, as it is also completely in line with what their deceased teacher Abdullah ibn Yassin wished on his deathbed: unity and brotherhood in leadership. In the second narration, Yusuf would prepare a welcome back ceremony for Abu Bakr's return, one worthy of kings, where he had his military show off the level of training and organization they had attained during his absence. The two leaders would meet. Yusuf would mount down from his horse, and the two men would sit and start discussing about the future of the Almoravid rule. He would tell him about the needs of the Muslims, the requirements of the next few years. Abu Bakr would have answered the following: "O Yusuf, you are my brother in faith, and the son of my uncle. I do not see a better fit than yourself for the leadership of the country, and I myself long to return to our desert homelands. I only came to hand over the power to you, then I shall be on my way." But Yusuf would not have him go back without a token of recognition for his service and dedication to the Islamic cause. He would prepare for him a royal goodbye gift. And a royal gift it was: 25,000 dinars of gold, 70 Arabian horses, 25 of which were carrying bags of gold and jewels, 70 swords, 150 mules, 800 pieces of colored fabric, 100 face veils, 200 suits made of wool, 1,000 pieces of linen, 200 shawls, 150 servants, and the list goes on and on. Yusuf even kept Abu Bakr's name on the coinage of the time as an additional token of appreciation. These two leaders were exemplary patrons of Islam, displaying a high standard of morals and exceptional behavior towards one another. They had no attachment for material things and favored the favors of God instead. They did not let their desires get the better of them. How many leaders have we seen in world history that would have jailed, tortured, or even killed their own brother to stay in power? Their fear of Allah and their love for the religion trumped all of it. Abu Bakr would eventually die just as he wished, in 1077 in a battle hit by a poisoned arrow. Join me next time as we explore the first few formative years of Yusuf's lead that will eventually reach their peak during the unification of the Islamic Emirates of Spain. See you next time.